Welcome to Comic Book Throwdown, Episode 2. I got 6 comics to talk about and not a lot of time. First off, nothing was awful this week, so I don't get the luxury of just crapping on something. So we'll start off with my least favorite to my favorite pick for this week. A lot of some stuff was canceled and pushed back to next week, so it's been a weird pickup week. So let's begin. De-Evolution number 4 came out, and this is the second to last issue in this Rick Remender post-apocalyptic miniseries. Giant ants, people dying everywhere. The epic conclusion is happening, and I put this in quotations. And our protagonist, spoilers, is, I think, stabbed or shot at the end. It's as the astronauts finally come down to Earth, which I completely forgot about. This book, overall, I want to read it, all 5 issues put together, and see how it does, because this seems very rushed. Like, Dynamite does not let Rick Remender had like an 8-issue story, and they said condense it down to 5. Not looking forward to the end of this. Give it a 3 out of 5. It was decent enough. It's entertaining. Next to my other digital book for this week, Dungeons & Dragons number 1. Dungeons & Dragons number 1 is sort of a sequel to Tales from Baldur's Gate or Legends from Baldur's Gate. It has the same characters from the Baldur's Gate game and from that IDW miniseries from last year. But you don't have to read that, and that's why this scores above De-Evolution, is it's a good jumping on point. The characters are pretty much explained in witty ways. The party goes after, is trying to protect this death cult or something like that, and then they end up getting ported to another dimension, which is a really famous D&D supplement that's escaping my mind. First story is great. Second story, the backup story, is really boring. It's a Icewind Dale story, so Forgotten Realms. I'm talking about some dragon cult or something. It was really boring. I actually started to fall asleep while reading this. That's how boring it was. So, this gets 3.5 out of 5 stars because this book was $4.99 and it should have been $3.99 or $2.99 and get rid of that backup story. Next on the list, first print book. Dark Horse, we got Predator, Life and Death, number 3 of 4. Dan Abnett is really just knocking this Predator miniseries out of the park. We're getting stuff set up. The Marines get their asses kicked. They take out 2 Predators in the beginning. But they're going to try to get to the ship. And hilarity ensues, long story short. So there's only 1 issue left of this, but then it's going to be picked up in Prometheus, Life and Death. This is going to be the sequel to Fire and Stone. They're doing a similar thing, but they're releasing it correctly this time. So yeah, I'm excited for that. It's actually, I heard from J-Rocks there's going to be an Aliens tie-in to this, and I'm not surprised. They'll probably do an AVP one as well. And they'll just keep doing things like that every year because Fire and Stone did really well and it was a really good story. So Life and Death is actually turning out better in some ways. It's just very different as opposed to it. And I think Dan Abnett is writing all of them, so it's going to have the same direction. So that's cool. Give this 4 out of 5 stars. Go check it out. Fun read. Not for kids, though. Another one not for kids is Punisher number 1. This book was really good for a Punisher story. I haven't read a good modern Punisher story in a while. That was just classic Punisher. And this kind of was classic Punisher with a modern twist to it. And yes, the parental advisory is there for a reason. But unfortunately, and this is why he gets ranked lower than the other 2 Marvel books I picked up. Editorial makes them censor the swear words. Now, if you're like me, your introduction to the Punisher, besides the Spider-Man 90s cartoon, came from Garth Ennis's Punisher Max, or his Punisher Marvel Knights series. And you're used to, in that, the most graphic crap possible in the most profane language, not censored. But because this is Marvel proper, they insist, even though they put a parental advisory on here and there's blood, guts, and gore all over the place, like someone gets impaled and electrocuted, they insist on putting asterisks and dollar signs and all sorts of stuff over the swear words, which is really irritating. I can't stand that. That is one of my big pet peeves in comics. You would think in 2016 they would stop doing that because they have a parental advisory sticker on there, but no. So this gets marked to 4 out of 5, as well as Predator, Life and Death. Next, we'll get into Poe Dameron number 2. Poe Dameron gets ranked over. It almost made number 1, but number 1 was so intense. It's not a bad issue. It's actually a really good Marvel Star Wars issue, which is weird. Which is probably why it got initially on the top of my head. It got ranked over a lot of the stuff I read this week. But we have a new villain, very suave villain. Name's escaping me, of course. And Poe and him are facing off in this. Black Squadron's fighting TIE fighters and stuff. And overall, really good issue. What puts this above Punisher, though, is that Charles Soule is weaving in new canon continuity again. Last issue, we had a character come back from Shattered Empire. This time, we have a reference to Before the Awakening, the young adult novel preview, prologue to The Force Awakens. And it actually has, hey, check this out, and blah 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 book. I've never seen that in a comic book before. And so it makes me believe that they're trying to fix the new canon. They're actually saying, okay, let's set up a timeline and we'll tie everything in together that way, because unfortunately with most of these Marvel Star Wars stories, they're contradicting each other. Specifically, Star Wars and Darth Vader are a continuity mess and you can't figure out what's going on. So it's good to see that Charles Soule with Poe Dameron is really tying that together. It's 4.5 out of 5 stars. And lastly, what took number 1 last week, we get its sequel, Moon Knight number 2. Now, Moon Knight is becoming my favorite book, period, right now. It is so bizarre. And I love it for that. Because it's a big 2 book that's not written like a conventional superhero story. We got Moon Knight's getting electroshock therapy and all sorts of stuff. And he figures out a way to escape. We find more people from his past as Moon Knight, if he ever was Moon Knight. That's the whole point of why I love this book, is you don't know if this guy is Moon Knight or he's just even more crazy than Moon Knight was. Because Moon Knight wasn't the sanest superhero. In fact, he was schizophrenic, as I recall. I'm not a big Moon Knight historian here, but I think he was schizophrenic. Well, now this guy is just, he's either really crazy or weird things are happening. And the ending, I will not spoil it, but it was actually better than issue 1's ending. So, Moon Knight number 2 gets 5 out of 5 stars. You all should be reading Moon Knight. It's so good. And these covers are that is so trippy. That's like a Pink Floyd. I want to just listen to Dark Side of the Moon while reading this. Or The Wall or something. Because it's just, wow. It's really trippy and well worth your time. So that's my comic book throwdown for this week. Hope you liked it. comment down below if you're reading something and you want to talk about it, or you want to talk about the books and argue why I rated them the way I did. If you want to know more or contact me, my Twitter and Instagram will be linked in the description down below. Thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't like it. I really don't care. But it's always good to debate. So, have a nice day, everyone.